We are now recording, so for the YouTube audience, welcome. This is a long-form VOD review that I did on stream yesterday. We'll edit it down a little bit in case there's some parts that, aren't super important or insightful or anything, or that I end up going back on later, but otherwise this should just be a pretty long analysis on Jackpot versus Team Please Forfeit. This is the LUTI Division X Finals. To start with, I always look at the weapon comps first. The two that both teams have in common here are Pencil and Squeezer, which is interesting to me. It might be that those two weapons are a choice specifically for this map mode. Pencil, I know, is still extremely popular, and people are just running it everywhere. Squeezer, it might be that people want the long range combined with the Zuka on this map. The mid-range helps a lot because there are a lot of pretty wide open areas. It helps to be able to hit people on the grates as well, so just strong ranges all around, I would think. And Zuka also, because of the open sight lines, is really powerful here. So I'm not super surprised to see that here. I would be interested to see if that core of the comp remains consistent as they go into other map modes. Then what we have different here are the Splash and the Bucket on Jackpot versus the Junior and the 52 on Please Forfeit. So a couple of interesting things there. First of all, on Jackpot, normally you would be expecting to see Madness playing the Bucket, but this is actually Max. Max is not a formal member of Jackpot, but has been filling in for them, and is good friends with them as well. They're a free agent. So Madness is actually on the Splash here. And then on... here, we'll just pull this up for a bit. So on Team Please Forfeit, Atomic, I know of from some clips that I've seen on Twitter, of them just absolutely beaming people with Squeezer. That doesn't mean that they're a Squeezer main. I don't know them that well to be able to say for sure, but they are definitely highly competent on this weapon, as, evidenced also by the fact that they're bringing it into DivX LUTI Finals. Then I've heard the name Yoshell. Don't know a ton about them as a player, but they're playing Pencil, so shouldn't be anything, too fancy going on there. And then Synapse has generally been playing 52, kind of one-tricking it. They've played for a lot of top pickups. They're probably the player that I'm most familiar with. I am not super familiar with the Junior player. I don't even really know how to pronounce their name. If it's Tidally, if it's Tid Ally, I don't know. Are they for breast cancer awareness? I don't know. Anyway, they're definitely a pickup. They don't play on like a steady team or anything like that, but they made it pretty darn far, so, something's working out that they're doing here. So let's back it up. Some interesting synergy points between the comps here. On Jackpot's side, I feel like I like their special spread a lot better. They've got a Crab and a Tri-Strike to the other side's Bubble and Whale. Now, Bubble is definitely solid on this comp, I think, because something that Bubble really synergizes well with is actually the Snipe Rider. Snipe Riders love to be able to stand still for a while and fire multiple shots without being harassed or anything, and the Bubble kind of lets them do that. It lets them walk up to a spot where normally if they showed themselves, they just immediately get bombed out of. They just get peppered with things so they can't stay there and finish firing all 5 shots. And the Bubble just kind of lets them be up there and gives them a more forward position than they can normally sustain. So that synergy is really cool, and they actually end up using that in the opening play here. I cheated a little bit because I was thinking of maybe just recording this separately or off screen or taking notes or something like that. And then I was like, it's going to feel more organic and make a lot more sense if I just look at this later. So we'll see that a little bit later on. I've only seen like the first minute or something. But the thing that I don't like about Please Forfeit's specials is that there aren't that many aggressive ones. You've got Azuka, which is solid, but not necessarily the most consistent thing. And then you've got a whale, and then beyond that, there's nothing that's going to move the enemy team, and the whale isn't going to do an awful lot of that. Whereas on the other side, you've got Azuka, but you've also got a crab tank, which is crazy on this map, and you've also got tri-strikes, which you can use to force people in. So that's, I think, a much more well-rounded special spread, and I think that Please Forfeit is going to have to make a lot more happen with the main weapons, which, having a 52, you can kind of do sometimes. But it'll kind of be on the junior player to get a lot of value out of those bubbles and out of the bombs they're going to be able to throw. Crab is crazy on this map in a good way or a bad way. I mean, good for the player who's using the crab at any rate. Any high ground greats are going to be really good for long range rapid fire weapons like splatlings, or in this case the crab tank. It lets you look down and around you, not just in 360 degrees, but in a sphere around you, and see all of the different targets. And because you can sustain your fire, you don't need to be hiding quite as much, because you can just kind of keep suppressive fire on the spots where people are trying to approach you from. Splatlings have a little bit more of an advantage up there because they are always going to run a lot of run speed, and that's the movement that helps you get across the grates the most, so people can't even necessarily chase you across them. That all out of the way, let's actually start game one, shall we? Took us a minute. Oh, that's not what I'm looking for. A little bit of spoilers there, I guess, if you know how to read that quickly. More quickly than I do. Alrighty. So it looks like Jackpot, they're moving for the pop here. They end up not getting it. Dot Q is just going for early cooler, as is Yoshell. Maybe not quite Yoshell. Yoshi's actually starting to aim at people now, but Junior gets an early bubble and sets it up over here. Meanwhile, so it looks like what Please Forfeit is trying to do is draw aggro with the Junior on the right, and then get Atomic and Synapse in on the left, and try and get a flank play, get a pincer in that way. The problem is that Dot Q and Leafy are just absolutely locking Synapse down. Synapse cannot make the jump out of the pit here, so there's never really any help that comes around for the Junior on the right until Yoshell actually moves up here. And here's that play that I was talking about with the Big Bubbler and the Snipe Rider. You put the Snipe Rider inside the bubble, and they can kind of just take free shots. Like, what is anybody supposed to do about it? So that is super nice, and they get Leafy. But then the bubble runs out, and now everyone's stuck up on the crates. And Synapse and Atomic have not managed to get anything done over here. And so the Junior ends up going down, and the play kind of collapses for Please Forfeit from there. So I like the idea of how to play the weak side of the map for Please Forfeit, but they need a more reliable way to get their front line in, because coming around from the pit there didn't work there at all. And I'm curious to see later on in the match if they're able to get a little bit more done there. So Synapse does well to get a 1-for-1 trade here, but in the meantime, Madness takes out Atomic, so it's still numbers advantage to Jackpot, and they're going to be able to just kind of pick up and go. They scare the Junior out to the point where they decide to start moving it left. Unfortunately, Madness doesn't quite get there in time to avoid being contested by Synapse, but between a special and two other members, they're able to at least get the dunk before Madness goes down, and that's progress. You never really complain too much about a push that does that, where you manage to get the dunk, but the player goes down. Because even if you don't have numbers advantage anymore, you don't have to go through that checkpoint again. The next push you get, you're going to be able to go further immediately. So, always good. What's the replay code? The code I saw was actually a player tag. Oh, yeah, it won't show the replay code on screen here. I received it from Joryan, so I don't know if this is even publicly posted, but let me see if I can find it. It was a Discord DM. Here we go. So the current one that we're looking at is this. Yeah, I would honestly argue that pencil is probably the most used weapon in top level play at the moment, which makes a good argument for it being the strongest. It's not necessarily because the main weapon's like crazy good or anything. It's that the main weapon is good enough and has some factors that counter other backline weapons, but also it gets cooler and paints a lot for cooler. And it's easy to slap on to whatever comp you want. So, what you mean by best kind of differs depending on your conditions, I suppose. All right. So, Jackpot are backing off and just maintaining mid control until they get their player back. They don't want to just dive into that corner and get, high grounded and be stuck and have nowhere to run. So they're waiting until Please Forfeit try to push back out so they can maybe get a pick and have some kind of advantage to move forward with. And only then will they really try to play the objective here. So Leafy, I believe, gets a pick on the Snipe Rider here. This is, let me double check to make sure that is in fact what's happening. But this is a classic kind of squeezer play where it sharks the backliner because it's so far away that they're not even really looking at it. Oh no, actually, it looks like that's just Madness. Yeah, okay, they just kind of stepped too far forward. That is very much a squeezer kind of idea, but that's not what happened in that moment. So they just step a little too far forward, and now there is a little bit of an advantage. We'll see how Jackpot tries to push it. Madness goes down, though. Okay, so good job from, Atomic holding it down. Good job from the Junior. The Junior's been playing the weak side a lot, which is interesting. They've been playing very independently of the rest of the team. A lot of the time, what you kind of expect is that the Junior is going to play with somebody else, and it's going to kind of be just painting constantly for them, maybe throwing a bomb here and there, playing a little bit in the background, but this is a very aggressive Junior. And as long as they can keep themselves alive by, popping bubble and stuff like that, this can work. The issue is if they run into a situation where they're getting outranged and they have no way to fire back. Which, there it goes. That's why I've always been a little bit skeptical of the aggro Junior. Just that, the lack of range makes it really difficult sometimes. You really depend on either spacing people out with bombs or keeping yourself safe with the bubbler to be able to get stuff done. Because otherwise, something like a midline Slayer weapon, just there's not a lot of counterplay to it. You have to shark it, and as soon as they know where you are, you're out of luck. So, Synapse is getting in on the left side, and as long as they get a wall up, they should be okay here. They actually pop Whale, and it looks like what they might be trying to do is just rush to the right side with the Rainmaker, knowing that two members of Jackpot are locked up on the left and can't really do anything about it. And they just hope that they get here before anyone's able to respond. There's the dunk. Madness gets the player. Again, you're totally cool with that trade because that means that you've got a checkpoint. And so now, pretty dead even in terms of points. 62 to 61 will not be the final score. I say that having not seen it yet. They didn't call out Synapse. Synapse was still sharking there, and so Leafy just kind of dropped down and got shot in the back. So this is an opportunity for Police Forfeit. Maybe not so much, because now there's a Crab Tank out, and Synapse is down. That's a really, really good Crab Tank. If the enemy team is ever in a position where what they really want to do is run forward toward you if they want to like press their advantage. A crab tank is amazing for chilling that, for just forcing everyone to sit back and play safe again. Because it's going to last for a really long time. You're going to have your teammate back by the time it's done. And if they just start running towards you, that's exactly what the crab wants. That's what is really good at shredding. So, great play there for Madness. And now they're trying to maintain the momentum by popping a tri-strike here. I'm not sure how much value... It's going to displace the enemy team, but I feel like they can just back up and be safe from this. Yeah, the only player trying to run forward with that was Max. They had .Q, they had Madness who was in Crab Tank. Nobody's actually going to move forward with those strikes. I feel like they probably should have saved those. They get a little bit more space, but I think that you can get more than just a little more space with the tri-strikes. Ooh, big Zuka gets .Q, which means no cooler, or slower cooler for next time or whatever. One thing I don't like about the overhead here is that I can't tell when players are coolered up. I'm going to back up a few seconds and see if they've got that right now. Okay, yeah, they are coolered. So this is exactly when they want to be going. Looks like the cooler was already out for Jackpot. So there might not be an awful lot of special charge lost for that. But they do end up winning the fight, and this opens up an opportunity for them to pick up and go. Looks like they're going to try and go top right. I'm not sure how much I like that, honestly, because they didn't have a lot of resources to clear the top right. I don't know. Whichever way they went, .Q is probably going to be able to shut it down, so I figure they probably just wanted to move it in that direction. But I also think there's potential to get lead if you sprint it left, even if you end up dying quickly, and to at least use that to put pressure on the other team to push it. Maybe they're setting up for the long haul. Maybe they're hoping they can maintain the push here and just keep it going. This has been a 1-for-1 so far. Madness gets in a little too deep from a position Leafy can't help. The strikes get one, though, so Synapse and Atomic just kind of need to hold the line. They're not going to be able to do that for too long. Synapse overstays. Nobody's jumping in either, so they're losing a little bit of tempo. Madness just gets in on the... Oh, great! Wow. That's not a fight that I expected the Junior to win there. Well played. They're really working pretty hard to get the bubble here. Okay, so they actually saw Madness coming. Madness had a different target in mind initially. So that's why that worked out. And that is a beautiful bubble placement right there. Tidally absolutely dies unless they get that bubble up. And now Max just has to back off. So, they get pop. They're not falling apart on the right-hand side, but Leafy, again, sharking with the squeezer up there. You know, weapons that shark are usually the short-ranged weapons because they need to do that to be able to get close. They need the opponent not to know that they're there, whereas midline weapons are a lot more likely to just stand their ground and bully you out of the way, even if you see them. But something like a squeezer, which has that fast of a kill time, can sometimes just, like, pop out of the ink from a mile away, somewhere you didn't see them, and delete you, and you're like, wait, did I just get sniped? What just happened? So that's the kind of splat that Leafy's able to get there. Really well played, especially using Max as bait. A whale goes out to try and chill out the aggression from Jackpot and buy time for Atomic to get back in. And they are able to do so. Max goes down to something over there, maybe a bomb, hard to say. Trade back and forth, slight advantage to please forfeit, but not enough of an advantage to start pushing the Rainmaker yet. That seemed a little bit early. I think if Yoshell actually just kind of stays active with the main weapon, they get that win cleanly and then they can move. Because Jackpot's not in a great position to defend the left side, which is why Tidally is going back in there. But because they had to back up, they can't get the Rainmaker over with Tidally. So this is just going to work as a flank. And now they still have to pop Rainmaker, pick it back up again. Everyone's back in play already. And what you're seeing there in part is the effect of Tactical around the game, where when people go down this much in Splatoon 2, a push definitely happens. But if people are Tacticalered when that fight happens, now in the time it takes you to pop the Rainmaker, the entire enemy team is back on defense and have actually gotten a pick and now have advantage over you. So it's a little bit awkward trying to play at the speed that these guys can play. Synapse is getting real deep there. I trust them because they're a 52 player and they're better than me, not because I like that positioning, but they are able to get out alive, and then they bait Leafy out a little too far for Yoshell to pick off, or whoever ended up being there. But again, the Rainmaker has reset, and in fact, oh, that was really smart from Max. They put all of their strikes on the shield so that it would insta-pop. And since Yoshell was the only one who was trying to paint it at the time, they weren't able to stop it from just exploding and splatting them right away. So, smart play there. Even though Max goes down, that really stalls the push out, because now somebody else has to come back, paint their way over to the Rainmaker, pick it back up, figure out where it's safe again. They lose a lot of map pressure that way. And .Q actually able to just drop down and get that clutch pick to stop the Rainmaker from moving. That was really important, because I think they can at least squeeze out lead if they get past that corner that .Q is protecting. And while it wouldn't have been a huge lead at all, with only a minute left and them not having managed to get this far, that might actually have been a winning lead if they'd been able to get it. So, very important play from .Q there. Great follow-up from Leafy to make sure that Please Forfeit doesn't just win a numbers advantage back. I'm interested to see if Jackpot decide to play the clock here. Because on the one hand, that's arguably the safest option, given that 4 minutes of the game have gone by and nobody's made it past 61. On the other hand, it's only 61, right? It's not super difficult to get past that. Ooh, and Leafy goes down, and they pick up. That's not great for them. .Q making a smart play to just drop it down into the pit here. It's going to be really difficult for Please Forfeit to get it out of here. They're going to need to basically wipe Jackpot if they want to be able to move it from the pit where it's at up to a position where they can score more. The jump that they have to make, or the run around the back side of the map, are going to be really slow, really predictable, really exploitable. So, good place to take the Rainmaker and drop it. Leafy is going to go down, though. When the play is broken down that badly, that's really a position where people need to be calling out to their teammates to back up and get out of there. Like, Max does not want to be here. Max wants to be dropping out. Leafy does not want to be fighting here. There's just too much enemy ink. There's too many enemy numbers. They're separated from each other. They're taking different fights. So a little bit of a panic moment maybe here from Jackpot. We'll see if Please Forfeit are able to pick this up and capitalize. They're going to let the Junior pick up, which is smart. You want the stronger frontline weapons to be up front to protect it. Especially since Tidally was also able to get the bubble out before they picked up. That gave them the ability to just hop across from pit over the jump without being contested. You'll remember at the very beginning of the match how Synapse got totally locked into that pit with .Q watching, and this bubble prevents that from happening to the Rainmaker carrier. So, super smart bubble placement. Also, just always good to get the special out before you pick up the Rainmaker, because picking up the Rainmaker will always end in either you KOing the game or you getting splatted. And so you're never going to get that special back. Might as well use it now. They use it to get themselves out of there. And now they just kind of need to pray that their teammates can get something done or shift the enemy team to the point where they can move. It's not looking great. Yeah, that was just completely shredded by Jackpot's defense. So let's look at what they were trying to do. So Atomic and Synapse are both underneath, and they just kind of get picked off. I think they probably could have taken their time a little bit more, but I think another part of why this doesn't work is the specials. They really are not getting enough done with the whale and the bubble, whereas they're up against a team that can pop a crab, a team that can pop a tri-strike on top of the one Zuka that they both have. That makes a pretty big difference in being able to push in situations like this. Like, you don't move Jackpot out of strong defensive positions like this without some kind of overwhelming force, and they don't have that overwhelming force. So they're kind of just poking around, hoping Jackpot make a mistake, and hoping that one of the best teams in the world makes a mistake. It's not the position you want to be in. It's not to say it won't happen, but you don't want to have to count on it. Madness getting a little cheeky on the right side here, maybe trying to zone out Yoshell so they can't pop shield. They just need to pop. They need to put all of their resources toward getting the pop and picking it up, and I don't think it's going to happen. They did get Leafy, but yeah, the win condition there is you just need to keep the game going, and they weren't able to do that. Jackpot played the defense really well. Nobody got anywhere, and I think that's in part just due to Tacticooler. 6 coolers on the part of Jackpot, and also 6 on the part of Please Forfeit. Alright, so that's game 1. Jackpot W by 1 point. Literally just because they broke checkpoint first. That was all of the pushing that happened. So, seemed fairly closely matched, honestly, in that regard. We'll see if that ends up being the case in future. I was curious to see if the squeezer was going to remain a part of the core of both comps, or if they were going to swap it out depending on map mode. And this is not a surprising outcome here. Atomic is sticking with the squeezer. That is the only weapon I've known them to play. Again, I'm not saying I know for sure that that's their main, but I have seen them play it before, and that's the only weapon I remember seeing them play. So, definitely possible they're just a one-trick. Whereas Jackpot, who don't really have like a dedicated squeezer player, they don't always bring it out. They end up switching off it in favor of the Stamper in this case. So this is the Zipcaster Stamper, the Burst Bomb one. I can see that making sense combined with a pencil and a splash. This is going back a little bit more towards like the early game crab meta thing, where part of crab meta that people forget about is that it was a chip damage meta. The idea was that every weapon on your team could do like 60 damage somehow from long range. And so you tag one player, now they're weak, somebody else can finish it off. And that was kind of the thought. And so it seems like that's kind of what they're playing to here. The bucket, I mean, yeah, you can combo with a bucket slosh. So there's that too. So they all have sort of a way of doing that. Bucket and Stamper are both going to be good for harassing over the top of Plat. And then Crab Tank is pretty solid on this map. There's not much that the Crab can't see from some relatively safe positions. It's also really powerful on Lockout if you get it on top of the spinner. Then exactly the same comp coming from Please Forfeit, and I think someone in chat said that they didn't change it for the entire set, so shouldn't be too much more to say there. But you can't feel too bad as Please Forfeit, because like that first match, they got exactly as far as Jackpot did. And the only difference is that Jackpot got there first, and that's what the tiebreaker is to win the match for them. And granted, like once you have the lead, that unlocks the capability to play for defense. Like who's to say the Jackpot couldn't have pushed it further if they really tried? But you still got to feel okay as Please Forfeit going into game 2. They're like, all right, we're competitive with these guys. We can do this. So we've got Madness dropping to the flank. Nobody trying to flank on the side of Please Forfeit. They've got a couple wall weapons, so maybe their idea is just let's set up a fortress over here and see if we can pinch in and get rid of that player who tries to flank. So they're starting to poke them out. Madness has to jump away, but they are able to jump to teammates because there's no pressure on the right side of the map. So smart play there. Tidally tries to poke in with a bomb, doesn't really get too much. There's a lot of paint control going to Jackpot right now, which is not necessarily what I expect. Like, remember in Rainmaker, Please Forfeit won the Rainmaker pop. So what this tells me is that somebody on Please Forfeit is trying to fight when they need to be painting for the rest of the team. Like, the Junior and the Snipe Rider immediately come to mind, but like Synapse can paint on a 52 as well. Like I often in solo queue, you know, I play short range shooters all the time, and a lot of the time I look at that like, okay, my job should be to be slaying right now, but also I have like 2 blasters on my team, so I'm gonna play a little bit more like a paint support right now. And so even Synapse could probably be stepping up and doing a little bit of that. But it's worrying that they're losing so much ground without a fight, because now that's going to let Jackpot get in a lot of different ways. Okay. They're able to swing it with Yoshell getting a pick on Max. Synapse gets traded back, but then Madness gets traded back for that. They have a 2v1 versus Leafy. Atomic can't really find an angle, so Leafy's probably going to get away. They need to be very careful here because, again, the fight was taken with Tacticooler. People are coming back in now from the left-hand side, and they can't afford to overcommit. If Tidally and Synapse can collapse here, they might get Max, but play very safe around each other. Synapse just trades. I would say Jackpot probably had the superior position here. The Junior and Atomic are really stuck in the middle. There's not a lot of cover there. And like Leafy can take pot shots, .Q can take pot shots, so it's really hard to find the right kind of cover to protect them. I would anticipate someone else from Please Forfeit going down here. Okay, Tidally and Atomic both end up jumping out, which gives up a lot of space. So it's not quite them going down, but functionally it's often almost the same, especially with Tacticooler in the game. So Leafy starts zipping in. Synapse finds a good angle around the left side, but there's nobody with Synapse up there. Like, there's nobody supporting this. I imagine Madness trades it back, yeah. So Zipcaster ends up getting splatted. .Q's like, I got the ball in. There's nothing more I'm going to accomplish from here. I'm getting out. And Madness, in a fit of madness, decides to stay and try and fight. No. I feel like Madness probably could have dropped behind the spinner, but I'd have to look at it again and see. Everyone goes down. It's a very small score, so overall solid defense from Please Forfeit. Like, the fact that they got Leafy out of the Zipcaster was huge, because now there's basically no pressure. There were no other specials that Jackpot tried to use to get a foothold up there, and they were able to just kind of walk back out. But again, like, look at the map right now. There's just no time that Please Forfeit are taking to try and paint the map. And I think part of this is because they're playing the Junior so aggro. There's Yoshell, who's going to be, painting for special here, but that's canceled out by .Q. And so then who else on the front line is actually going up and getting them anything? Synapse is splatted. Atomic is playing the Squeezer. That doesn't paint as well. So there's really not a lot of room, and Tidally running in here is just going to look very predictable. You can see the streak across mid that shows exactly where they're heading. Ooh, okay. Why is Leafy the one who's dying here? Hello. Oh, I didn't see that the big bubbler went out. So that'll help a lot. So maybe that's the idea here. They're using the big bubbler to take space that they wouldn't be able to control otherwise. I think that works if there's enough follow-up. But, like, look at the positioning here. Yeah, there's the big bubbler. I missed that the first time. Like, Atomic went down way behind. Synapse is still on plat. If there's follow-up to support this push, then this totally works. The problem is that there's nobody to be there once the bubble is down. So they can just double or triple team the bubble, and the junior goes down eventually. So now strikes force everyone else back. There's a crab top mid. They're going to flush out Synapse and find them. Atomic is forced to jump. Well played from Jackpot to capitalize on that. Zuka comes out, which doesn't seem to be hitting anything. Look at Jackpot's positioning there, by the way, when the Zuka comes out. Very disciplined, very defensive play here. This is how you counterplay the Zuka. Soon as, you know, it comes out and doesn't just immediately hit someone, they, like, will just look like... So the Zuka's out, and now look at where we all are. Max is under the ledge. No one's going to hit him there. Madness is under the ledge and kind of off to the side, so it's hard for Atomic to hit. .Q is keeping top mid in between them and the Zuka. And then Leafy is hugging the wall over on the right. Everyone finds a piece of cover. Everyone stays with that piece of cover, shifting around unpredictably until all of the shots are done. They've survived the Zuka. Now they can start moving up. You know, credits for the timing of the Zuka, because that was the time where, you know, you want to catch someone trying to run at you too fast. But Jackpot fielded it really well. They're able to get Synapse. Tidally does get the big bubbler up, and that is a huge swing in the fight. Yeah, lots of value in these one-on-one fights from the bubbler. It's actually after the juniors leaving the bubbler that they keep getting picked. If they just kind of win the fight with the bubbler, but then maybe let Synapse push forward instead, or like wait for a little bit more help or something, they might have more success. I don't know. That was a hard situation because I think Synapse is moving up really fast, and they're probably trying to move up to help them. Now Synapse is just in a 1v3 and is going to go down. The comp feels a little bit slow from Please Forfeit compared to Jackpot here. It feels like Synapse and Tidally are trying to make plays, but Tidally is junior, and you know, even the 52 isn't the fastest moving frontline weapon. Like, there are other weapons that get space faster. The 52 just kind of locks it in a little bit better, and so it's able to still kind of progressively move forward. And then you got a Squeezer and a Snipe Rider, neither of which are really going to be the ones pushing forward. They're going to be trying to play from their range. I almost feel like you might want something other than the Squeezer here, so that somebody else can be forward there with Synapse and Tidally. Because you lose one frontliner, and if the comp feels really fragile, you just kind of immediately lose a lot of pushing power. At least the way that they're playing. You know, maybe there's a version of Atomic who goes in guns blazing and wins the fight anyway. Tidally's kind of in there alone. They do sneak through. Okay. That was good crossfire from the midline. That was good crossfire from Atomic and Yoshell to keep the enemy team off angles where they could hit the junior from. Okay, so random picks from the Snipe Riders on opposite sides. .Q gets Synapse, Yoshell gets Leafy. We're dead even, fighting in the middle. Huge Zuka from Atomic. Let's go! That was a crazy triple right there. 2 shots, 3 splats. They're going to get 2 power clams in, and they still have control of plat. Plus, there's a whale coming in to potentially create some pressure here. might get Atomic over the side, or maybe Atomic doesn't want to go over the side. They need to find a way to like stop Jackpot from moving forward now. Like they need maybe Yoshell up on top of the spinner. See, what Jackpot does here is they put the crab up on spinner, and now they've totally got that area locked out. Here for Please Forfeit, it's a little bit more difficult comp-wise, because we talked about the special spread earlier. I don't feel like they have quite as much to force the enemy team back. They get one with the whale, then the jump goes down, which is fine. They got another ball in. That's a potentially winning push, and then Synapse just wins it with the main weapon because it's a 52 gal, and also because Synapse is really good at the video game. So, well played there. They're out of clams, which might actually still end the push, because I don't think anybody has any follow-up here. Oh, they get one? Can they get more? Man, this is brutal. Because keeping the basket open there means that Jackpot is going to push back out into mid slower. They're going to have to like worry about locking down their basket instead of just like haphazardly running by their basket and taking more space like they would prefer to do. So those clams like have a pretty significant impact on the flow of the game. There's the threat to bring a power clam in. I don't think that threat is going to materialize. They're really going to need to do some work to get tidily out of there unless they can get a big bubbler out. Atomic is just on the opposite end of the map from this. Possibly worried about... Okay. Was that Yoshell helping out? They're looking from the overhead, like a lot of these positions don't feel like something that the junior wins. Let's see from Yoshell's perspective here. Okay, so we're backing off here. Okay, yeah. So, good skirmishing from Tidally into Yoshell being on the ball and catching people who are going after them. Because if everyone's allowed to collapse around Tidally there, I feel like they have to die. But because that help came through, because Tidally knew the game plan and just stayed alive long enough, they were able to get to and keep moving forward here. Probably not moving forward enough that the junior who's holding the power clam can just run forward towards the basket. That was maybe a little too ambitious, but it's still looking really good for Please Forfeit right now. Something that we have been seeing a lot, and I'm actually going to zoom in on specifically Atomic for a second to see if my idea here is correct. But something we've been seeing a lot is multiple splash walls as a way of just shutting down the enemy attacks, basically making it really difficult to get shots on your team. And I wonder, it's been zoomed out so far that I haven't really been able to see super well how the micro engagements have been going. I'm wondering if like what they're trying to play here is to the walls of both the 52 and the squeezer. So walls out there, walls out right. Doesn't really end up doing anything for him. We'll back up to where we were. Also, hello, Doobie. Okay. So this is the part where I think Tidally just kind of... Oh no, okay, so we bait here. Leafy goes down, Max goes down, then Tidally just kind of tries to go in and dies. But they traded back. Madness probably shouldn't have stayed there with nobody helping them. Synapse plays the corner there. 52 is insane on Plat. It is such a good weapon for covering that. Like, I love bringing 52 to this map, any mode. So this happens to be like particularly strong for it. Synapse gets picked. So now Madness is going to get into mid here and set up with the Crab. Forces Atomic to jump out. Yoshell goes down in the meantime. They do shred the Crab, to their credit. And like anything that they can do at this point to slow Jackpot down even if Jackpot eventually gets a push, if they just get a slower push, they probably still don't win the game. Because they need to get down to 24, which is pretty substantial. Okay, Max collapses, gets Synapse. Leafy's zipping in there. They probably need a little bit of help. They do get one out of it, but not a super successful zip. That's been something that they've been struggling to make work so far, is Leafy zipcastering onto Plat to clear it. That's a part of their game plan that hasn't really been working super well for them. I don't know if that's an execution thing on like Leafy's part, or lack of follow-up, or just it's not really the right plan for the map mode. Or this team is particularly well equipped against it. Leafy ends up going down, so now it's 4v3. Synapse is going to be able to start poking in a little bit, especially if they've got a wall to work with. Max ends up going down. Yeah, super well played on the defense here so far. This is definitely Please Forfeit's game to lose, and I don't see them losing it right now. There's no potential. They've got a lot of clams on Jackpot, but they have opted not to go for like a crack and cheese strat or anything like that. They're going to have to push those clams in here pretty honestly. And even then, you know, 2 power clams plus 6. So that's 40 points plus 18 points, so 58. So that gets them, what's 80 minus 48? That would be 32. So that still doesn't get them to lead. They would still need 3 more clams, even if they scored every single one that they're currently holding. So Leafy zips in. This is looking promising. They actually do get value this time, but Tidally gets 2. So like one of the clams makes it in. That's not enough. They literally need to splat Tidally, Synapse, and Atomic while keeping the basket open to be able to win this game. I think that's the only way that this happens. So very strong position here from Please Forfeit. They're able to pick the clam up. Leafy does get that in, but where are the other 25 points coming from? They have 0 clams now. And .Q is on the other end of the map. That is game over. So looking really strong from Please Forfeit. Like, both sides have been really strong defensively for the most part, but Please Forfeit managed to get one really good push in there, and that made all the difference. It's kind of coming down to just who gets something going on offense, because neither of them are budging very much. So we've got the foil squeezer out here. It makes sense. This, of course, would only have been done if both teams consented to having splatter color screen. I don't think any of them are going to mind, as long as they don't have some kind of disability that makes it more challenging for them than it is for others. So we're going to see screen usage here. My first thought, the most obvious thing for me, would be that they are going to use the screen to lock off one of the sides of the map so that it's much easier to fight on the other side, but then they, pile everybody on that side. So I really like this bomb that Tidally throws. It covers pretty much the entire run up to top mid for Jackpot. So now, if Please Forfeit want to, they get to take top mid before Jackpot has a chance to stand up there. Max could, in theory, have done the same thing, but they have chosen to only now. Very good common spot to throw the bomb. We've got Madness coming around on the left side, which is a little dangerous. If they get collapsed on here, they might have help from Leafy from range, but they're not going to have someone super near them, and it's possible for them to get isolated with the correct placement of bombs or something. So Jackpot's betting pretty big on Madness being able to survive, or them being able to win something on the right. Okay, Madness gets out of there. Ooh, this Zuka's dangerous. Doesn't find anything. Trade goes down on the bottom right. What is .Q doing getting engaged on there? What happened? Oh, okay, so .Q was like moving out there to try and paint around the corner and kind of pie the corner. But Tidally sees that they're alone and uses the cover, and Max isn't there to help in time. So Leafy's able to drop back and trade that out. Meantime, Please Forfeit gets full control of right. Atomic with the huge double there. Synapse also winning the 1v1, and now they just get to take space. Atomic, a little bit too aggressive there. You probably want to just put a wall up and get some paint down so that you can move forward. So they just got stuck and obliterated, and now they're probably going to lose control sooner. Whoa, 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 whoa. What? What happened over there? So there's a Zuka here. Was that just a bomb? What happened? Why did so many people just randomly go down all of a sudden? They're a junior main, all right. Okay. Trades come out. They lost .Q, which might mean... Do they have Cooler? They don't have Cooler. That's bad for Jackpot. They probably do have the paint to be able to get control back, though. So, not the end of the world. Zones is never over till it's over. Sometimes the worst situation you can be in zones is basically you are forced to win 2 team fights without losing the zone. That's hard, but it's doable. It's not like, a tower control where you just have to break a checkpoint against someone who's got a tri-strike and everyone's waiting and swarming to get on the tower when the tri-strike goes out. There are no situations that are that bad. So it's definitely redeemable, but this is a really solid showing so far from Please Forfeit. And also, they haven't capped the zone yet? Oh no, wait. Is this just over? Oh god, it might just be over. They get pretty easy fights here against... If they trade Madness back... Yeah, that's game over. Wow. Alright. 2-1, Please Forfeit. Well, dang. That is not how you draw up the bracket for this event. See if Jackpot come alive here on the backs of being, put down a game now. Really, the biggest issue there, it's like the triple bomb kill, that sort of thing, that can happen sometimes. And that's impactful, but that doesn't guarantee the KO or anything. It just sets up another fight and makes that next fight a little bit more important. And the thing was, Jackpot had like a 4v2 numbers advantage and didn't cap the zone. They really needed to cap there. Because once they didn't, they had no time to recover and make something happen. They needed that penalty. Okay. So, radically different comp coming out of Jackpot for understandable reasons. We've got the ballpoint because it just is absolutely disgusting on this map. And so the fact that we no longer have a snipe rider means someone else needs to pick up cooler duty. So that ends up going to Max on the Tri-Nouveau. And then we just doubled down on the AoE here by using Madness's V-Blaster, which is interesting. My biggest concern for Jackpot is paint, but everything else checks out pretty well here. The fact that .Q has switched off onto an inkjet weapon means that even though we have cooler bubbler, just like we've been talking about with Please Forfeit, they still have two aggressive specials that will really help to get you in the Zuka and the inkjet. Like, inkjets by themselves can just completely turn pushes around. So I still like the special spread better on Jackpot, even though one of their specials is less aggressive now. They've got a lot of AoE, which is something you really desperately need to push through the critical points on the map. The most important parts here are just before and after second checkpoint, because the enemy team is going to have high ground or on like multiple sides of you that they can use to attack you from. So being able to suppress that with AoE damage is really important. You need something that can hit over a ledge. The ballpoint is a really, really good pick here. It just dominates the midsection of the map from the grates and has cover that it can, use against longer ranged weapons. Typically, the counter to the ballpoint, the reason we're not seeing more ballpoint, is that Snipe Rider is very good against it and can use its range to poke the ballpoint out. But it's not necessarily the easiest thing to get the right shots that you need on the ballpoint. If the ballpoint knows where you're at and can play around it, it can have a more dominant effect against your team than the Snipe Rider can have against the other team. And it can still play really well. Plus, the Snipe Rider is never going to pop an inkjet and get, a double by itself. So you get a really good inkjet spot on the ballpoint from playing the grates and being able to make your way all the way up to the enemy bunker. Because once you can get up over the top of bunker, then you can see everything in street. You can see the enemy elbow. You can see anyone who's trying to come up over the top to attack the second checkpoint there. So the comp makes a lot of sense in theory. We'll see how it works out in practice. Please Forfeit has just shown that they're going to stick to these weapons. Makes a lot of sense for Synapse to be playing 52. They're kind of a one-trick there. Makes a lot of sense for Yoshell to be sticking to the Snipe Rider. I, again, haven't seen Atomic play other weapons than the Squeezer. And so it just kind of seems like these are what they play. These are what they're going to do the best on. We're seeing both teams do a lot of painting as they move out into mid. Tower is a pretty slow mode. Getting the tower early wouldn't do anything for them unless they were able to get through a checkpoint, and nobody's going to get there that slowly. So they're taking some time and getting some special charged before the fight that's inevitably going to happen in mid. Even first checkpoint isn't really the important one. It's really the second one that is a much bigger deal if you're able to clear it. You kind of just expect that as soon as either team gets any push, they're going to get first checkpoint for free. Okay, how does .Q go down here? Because this is one critical part of the comp here that... Oh, they actually go in for the jet. They must just get picked by the rider. Yeah. That's another thing about the rider. Like, if you have good aim with it, inkjets are actually pretty easy to take out. So that's going to be a huge suppressant to their pushing strategy if that keeps happening. .Q's going to need to adapt to that. What can work is if there's already pressure on the snipe rider from another source, so it can't do that. That would be a way that that inkjet gets value. And that inkjet play to go up over top mid, that feels like, you know, it takes enough setup just to get it up there that you have to think that that's like just a set play that they've come up with, that they're always going to try and go for that from that position. Which, like, it's always good to have a plan, but also it's challenging sometimes when you have that idea in your head to go, all right, wait, if I do go forward with this plan, here's what they're going to respond with. And you sometimes miss counterplay that's available when you go for that. The inkjet there was just kind of in full view of the snipe rider, so it wasn't going to get a ton done with that. And off the back of that pick, off the loss of that really important special, there wasn't a lot that Jackbot had going for them, and they'd already committed to the fight, so ends up going in favor of please forfeit. And here we are on first checkpoint. They even lost a player there. Oh, they lost two. This Zuka might even things out. Oh, it doesn't. Synapse and Atomic are in really awkward positions. Lucky that they got away from that, really. Good management of information. Okay, Synapse sneaks in for a 1-for-1. It probably wasn't worth it. Now they just kind of lose control of mid. Madness goes in too deep on right, though, so just even trades back and forth. There hasn't been a lot of, like, strong team play so far. It's been, like, someone sees an opportunity to get a splat, gets it, gets traded back, and we're back to square one. Leafy's going all the way in to try and get Yo Shell here, which makes sense. Like, this is a really good play if Leafy succeeds, because they get rid of the cooler. Like, Yo Shell has a cooler charged and has not put it out there yet. So this would be a huge swing in Jackpot's favor if Leafy pulls it off. And even so, you know, just by going for Yo Shell, that leaves the Junior out to dry against the others. So it's still a 1-for-1. But it would have been a really good splat to get clean as well. So Synapse has been harassing from here. Madness and Leafy know it. Oh, but the bubbler doesn't go up in time to save Madness from Synapse. That's a huge loss there, and that's going to take the wind out of the push. Yeah, Atomic. When you're split up like that, it's 4v3. There's just always going to be someone who is going to be double teamed. As long as everyone's kind of moving forward at about the same rate. And Atomic, you know, .Q was there to protect the tower from Yo Shell, wasn't there to protect it from Atomic. Madness and Leafy are both engaged in front, so they can't really help with that side. So Atomic just snipes the tower. Tower's gone. .Q is also gone. Atomic is in a crazy position there. Does manage to get Leafy for it. Okay. So there's some value and great trade back from Synapse. Like, it's challenging sometimes to jump into a position that, like, where a fight has already been happening and figure out where it is you need to go and who you need to trade back. Callouts help a lot with this, but just great awareness on Synapse's part to be splatted right here, jump into this position, and just know, like, okay, so the player I need to go for is right here. And then should be able to get the second one, too. Yeah, well played. Because, like, if I jump into that and I don't have my teammate calling, like, here's where they are, or like go for it, or like trade them back or something like that, I might choose to play that safe, knowing that I'm pushing into a 1v2. But assessing the situation, seeing, I can get one out of that and going for it, that's pretty solid. Okay. So they clear the checkpoint, lose 2 immediately. What happened there? That was probably madness, right? Just hitting both of them over the wall. Oh, it was the double bomb. Oh, man. That was an autobomb. That was just a chicken. We take those. It's really common for a frontliner to try and sit on the wall in front of bunker and just kind of wait there as they approach the top. But if there's already someone there, you got to be careful not to be too close to them. You got to be careful not to be like giving their position away, or stuff like that can happen. I like how much space Madness just took. So now it's really hard for the enemy team to contest the second checkpoint area. They're probably going to be able to force Madness out, but it's going to take time. And in that time, the tower is probably going to move to lead. Especially with the big bubbler out there. Now the enemy team just doesn't want to contest that at all. How did they lose? Did Yoshel get a pick? When they've got this kind of a forward position, it falls to the midliners, or, whoever's not riding the tower. In this case, I guess .Q, to keep the tower safe. Because the way that pushing this far forward can fail is if they manage to get around you and stop the tower anyway. Yeah, and Yoshel gets an angle. So Max goes down, and now someone has to rotate the tower. And Yoshel's probably going to have free shots on .Q. Madness has lost their fight by now. So there's lead. It looked like Leafy might have actually traded someone back there. This might be worth it in the end. So what happens over here? So Leafy... Okay, Leafy gets Atomic with the Zuka shot. That was part of it, and Synapse got traded back. So because of Leafy's play there, they're still even in numbers around the tower. And they're getting Max in sooner than the others are. So it ends up working out for them. But it took Leafy getting multiple picks there to account for the fact that the tower went down. Okay. So the objective of Jackpot right now is ideally to get someone into top left and clear that out, because that's really difficult to access from the tower path. There's no paintable wall you can use to get over the top. You have basically only one option, which is to hop over the tower, or I guess if .Q gets an Inkjet, then maybe she could get up over the wall on the left and try to remove Yoshel that way. She probably wouldn't be able to get rid of the Junior fast enough. But so Madness and Max are both Mad Max are both trying to get up over the side there, and it's up to some good splat bomb placements to keep them away. And so we do get that attempt to get over the top of the Inkjet. It does enough, I would say, because they're at the checkpoint now. Oh, they don't quite get the checkpoint. If they'd been able to cheese that checkpoint, I would say it's worth it. Oh, .Q. I really like that idea to actually position .Q up on the top left. That's a really solid position for a backline weapon. Gives you right side peek over the street area. Also gives you control of the Dex area below on the left if someone tries to push that way. And now .Q can just give a bunch of jumps. Everyone gets back in right where the tower's at, and they run forward and die to Synapse. Yeah, so There was an attempt. This push does not continue far enough to get lead without something happening. The big bubbler is going to get shredded, and there's nobody out in front of the tower. There's nobody clearing bunker. There's nobody putting too much pressure on top left. Like, Synapse can shoot over the top, but you can't really get .Q out of there unless .Q screws up. You don't even have bombs to throw. I'm confused about what their plan is for how they're going to move through this area of the map. They've got a big bubbler. They've got a Zuka. They've got a whale that's not going to do very much. They're going to have cooler, obviously. But, like, how do they stop Max from just deleting the Tower Rider? How do they stop .Q's Inkjet from, you know, hitting Synapse or hitting the Tower Rider from that far away? What do they do about Leafy? Do they even know Leafy's there? Because nobody's gone around that way. They just don't have a lot of control right now, and I don't see this going anywhere. Leafy just dives in, gets one. Madness and Max trade 1 for 1. And that's a 3 for 1 win. Yeah. That was about how we predicted it based on how that was looking. And that was just one of those cases where the Tower Rider is frontlining. There's nobody out in front creating space for it. That's a mistake that I see at a much lower level than these guys are playing at. The play there is probably, like, I get that the big bubbler has been popped on tower, and so at that point you're probably committed to that idea. But, like, just don't pop the big bubbler yet, because there's nobody to really follow up on it. Maybe just stall the tower, wait for someone to get out in front of you, then pop the big bubbler, and now you can actually do something with it. I don't know. Felt a little bit uncoordinated there. Maybe they were just trying to cheese for lead. You know, they got to 58. That's kind of close. But it definitely wasn't close enough. Like, 7-6 is still a pretty substantial amount of time. And on top of that, you know, they lost the fight badly enough that now they were able to use their big bubbler. And, like, let's look at how Jackpot uses their big bubbler by contrast, because they get to push the very next play. Okay, so .Q gets 1. Max is able to get another over the top, just wins the 1v1 over the top because AoE weapon versus straight line of sight weapon. Doesn't matter that the squeezer has more range if the squeezer cannot hit you unless it's right next to you. So there's nobody is even, like, close enough to contest the tower at this point. There's the threat of the Inkjet, which is keeping everyone down on the right. There's, you know, nothing but a junior on the left. It's not going to contest a Tri-Slosher by itself. And then we get the big bubbler up here. So, like, we cleared all of that space with our main weapons, or, you know, our specials first. And now we can cheese for more points because... Oh, that didn't go over the tower. That just went on solid ground. I feel like that's a little bit of a waste, but... Even so, they're still able to trade down to 28. At this point, Max is probably dead. They've got some jumps in. Oh, and the Insta-Zuka on landing because Tacticooler is a silly special. And Leafy's just going to waste time here. Leafy doesn't need to play the objective. They've got 15 seconds to get on the tower, and they're going to spend half of that time fighting Leafy. And a 1-for-1 trade, too. Exactly what they want. Now, there are 3 Jackpot members surrounding the tower, and the 3 members of Please Forfeit have not had time to get any kind of foothold in mid. They don't have the paint control to go after this tower, but they need to sprint for it, and they're just going to get mowed down from the top by the ballpoint. Yeah. So it like like it has in previous games, it's all really just come down to a single push that has made the difference. And this time it was Jackpot that had all the offense. I think the attempt made by Please Forfeit to try and cheese the lead out was really weakly constructed. It fell apart too easily. And then on the back of just losing that fight really decisively, Jackpot were able to mount a much stronger push that got them the lead. Bubbler is a good special for a locking space you've made with the main weapon and an entry tool. Yeah, like, you need to make that space a lot more than you need to make it with something like a Booyah Bomb, for example. Booyah Bomb just kind of makes its own space. You don't necessarily have to control that area quite as powerfully as you would to be able to just walk in with your main weapon. Like, you can definitely, as long as you get support from your teammates, you can push into an area that you don't have paint control over, pop a bubbler there, and then as long as you have paint control of that area by the time the bubble wears off, you're fine. So it can kind of delay your need to have control of the area with your main weapons. But you do need to get that control at some point. Otherwise, as soon as the bubble wears off, you're just kind of stuck. Okay. So we have Madness on Bucket here, actually. Okay, because Max was just playing Tri Nouveau. So double bucket makes a lot of sense. This is Humpback. And we've got the ballpoint with the Vac. So that's probably why they're pulling it. They want Vac strats on Rainmaker here, which is very popular. And Leafy staying on the shot. So the reason that they're using the AoE weapons here, the buckets, for those who haven't thought this kind of thing through, is just the dome in the middle. It's really, really strong to have weapons that can hit over ledges instead of straight line of sight weapons for specifically fighting in mid there. There are also like a lot of ledges that are just valuable to be able to hit over, for like bunker and window, for example. But that mid area in particular, if you don't have an AoE weapon, you're going to struggle a lot more to be able to take it safely. Much less of a priority on getting the pop this time from Please Forfeit. They got it the last time they played Rainmaker. But this time Synapse is looking somewhere else. Yoshell is still just painting for special, so ends up not going over to them. So let's see what Jackpot do with this. Leafy tries to set an ambush for Tidally there, doesn't quite find it. And has to back off here. They're a bit bunched up in the middle here. This could be a good opportunity for Please Forfeit to push in. Oh, the Vac is coming in. That's why they're bunched up, so that they stay in the Vac. It's hard to see those visual effects sometimes, but yeah, so this is game over here for Synapse. And Tidally, they are going back to spawn to think about what they've done. Atomic also gets caught. Just a lot of pressure being put out there, so strong Vac push from Jackpot there. They get everyone right where they want it. That's just everything that you want when you draw up an Ink Vac play. But Leafy tries to wedge her way in on the bottom right there, and it really doesn't work out. There's not a lot of support to be able to keep them in this position here. They get the checkpoint, and so I guess from here they're just kind of backing out. They've lost Max. It's 3v3. This doesn't feel like a position they have to back up, but then the special gets popped. .Q is playing really far back. I guess they're just trying to protect from someone coming over window. But Leafy is in there without support in the fight that she's trying to take. Madness also ends up getting picked. Atomic just lasers someone there. So, yeah. That kind of play right there is why you have a squeezer. Like, let's just look at what Atomic does here from their perspective. That guy's just dead. What do you do about it? You have more range than them. They can't run away. Alright, so they clear the checkpoint, which is definitely worth getting splatted for. The junior, I guess, thought that they could hide in the corner there and not explode. Maybe they were trying to jump out and just didn't get there in time? I don't know. Limit testing, limit testing. Oh man, Leafy's doing really well over here. Got a pick and then is sharking their way in on Atomic. Gets the trade there. 3v2, 2 specials on Jackpot. Oh! The Inkfact gets sharked though. Or gets splatted from the side or something. So they totally lose all of their momentum from that. The cooler's out. But that's just something they're going to grab and maybe not even use because they're not going to fight yet. Tidely goes in, gets a pick. Yeah, this is really scary for Jackpot. They got really badly desynced when the VAC went down. They lost all their control over the right side, and they had no forward movement to get them through. So they kind of put all their eggs in one basket on the VAC push. It went down, and now a couple of their members were left out to dry and like didn't retreat to keep themselves alive. So this is the Humpback Rainmaker dance. It is the defenders playing ridiculously patiently and carefully, trying to throw as many bombs as possible and just not let the enemy team through the choke point, and please forfeit, forced to use their specials and whatever resources they have to try and push across this open ground that's really difficult to fight through. Zuka comes out, gets a double because there's literally nowhere else for them to even go. Leafy gets one, is looking for Atomic, but doesn't really have the paint to work with. 30's not bad, but it's definitely not a safe push either. Like, please forfeit will certainly take an opportunity to push further if they get it. Synapse with a good pick on Madness there. Is able to stay alive long enough for the help to come in on the right side as well. It's crazy to me how Synapse is playing so close to the enemy team right now and not dying. Like, that's the reason all of this is going so well. Like, they're forcing the enemy team to pay attention to them. And they're like, look how close they are to all of those members. There's an Inkfact, and they just go into it a little bit, and they're still poking, and they're still fighting, and they're not getting exploded by something. Sometimes I say things, and then the game hears me and decides to make me look silly. In their defense, I am surprised that this hits them. That was a pretty critical pick for Jackpot to get there. Because the Rainmaker had someone to paint for them, so it didn't even have to stop to paint. It could just get away with swimming. That Fizzy actually probably saved them the lead here, because it forced them to back up a little further. If they take less time to get around that corner, Leafy doesn't catch them here, and they're just free running towards goal. Synapse is just destroying people on that left side of the map. It's insane. I need to try and play that side more when I play 52. Alright, Synapse getting around the right side a little bit faster than they're able to protect themselves, and so that falls apart. So Synapse is able to just dive in for the Rainmaker splat. Yeah, I feel like if Synapse is going to try and run around the corner there, they kind of need the wall first. So maybe pop Whale, put the wall out using the Whale's ink tank refill, and then move around the corner. Or if you had enough ink, then wall, Whale, wall. But they pushed the pace just a little too fast and people were waiting. Collapse happens. Atomic goes down on the left somehow. Just a random pick. Okay, so the Zuka here is really well timed because that's letting Madness move forward. Synapse is able to dive in and get the Rainmaker from here, but they probably still have control. Especially with Atomic on the flank, not that they necessarily know that immediately. Great pickup by Leafy. This is dangerous. Jackpot in a really good position to score right now. But they need to get rid of the Junior faster than that. Okay, they sneak it through just barely to 28. It took a while to get rid of Tidally, but they managed to do... Oh, that Zuka pick! Leafy's popping off with these Zukas right now. They're doing so much work. And they're able to just sneak it forward. That's a really good line to take to go from the top of the hump on window towards the rail. The rail blocks a lot of shots coming from in front, so you only really need to worry about what's going on the right-hand side. Okay, so push to 20. Still beatable if Jackpot screws up too badly here, but they've been playing well so far. So they've got a little bit of a numbers advantage right now, and they're moving forward. The one thing that I mentioned about their comp earlier that I didn't like was that they don't have a lot of forward-pushing specials, and I think that this map, if no other, is one where that's really going to bite them. I don't know how they move ahead without just using their main weapons. Like, I feel like they need to just be using the Synapse's wall, basically, and Rainmaker shots to be contesting this, to get Synapse and the Junior forward onto plat. It's like, who's stopping .Q right now? What happened on Jackpot's push was they Zuka'd Yoshell and got them off of that foam pit area. They... Even if Atomic had a Zuka, from this angle, they can't use it on that spot. So what do? Like, whale it? That's not going to do that much. I guess they've got some bombs. Actually, they've got one bomb, but it's on a Junior, so I guess you kind of have two. Are they running double bomb? Yes, they are. Okay. So you do have two bombs. Which makes sense. This is Rainmaker. Like, if you're ever going to run double bomb, this would be where you would do it for defense. Ooh, huge pick from Leafy into the Zuka that gets another. This is over. There's no way, right? Leafy just absolutely popped off. Got like 5 at the end. They really kind of just couldn't stop Leafy. Like, Leafy... At the absolute, like, most critical moments of the game, Leafy was always the one who was getting picks there. Leafy stopped the Rainmaker on their push from getting around the corner away from them. Leafy got the pick on the backliner that let the Rainmaker move ahead. Leafy got the defense there. Just a bunch of big plays there What was Leafy's KA? Yeah, 16. Sometimes that doesn't tell the whole story, because sometimes the picks that you did get, while maybe not as numerous, were more impactful. So this is a concern. Leafy is starting to get some momentum. You know, Jackpot's probably feeling it. They're probably starting to feed off of this. You need something to slow it down. Okay. So this is Clams Inkblot? Okay, Clams Inkblot. So Jackpot are once again going for the Inkvac pushes. They're going to favor these on maps that have like more singular choke points, narrower choke points. They had some success with it on the last game. And then same comp from Please Forfeit. Okay, so Leafy goes down early on the left, just pushing stuff that's out of her range. They're not taking a lot of space for this. Like, Jackpot kind of just respawned and went right back to where they were standing before here. Leafy goes down. There's no way Leafy had a cooler at that point, did she? Not. Yeah, that bomb is definitely going to show everyone where Leafy is. And there was already someone watching her as she tried to come up over the top. So just going a little too fast, not thinking about what information the enemy team had about her position. So Max and Leafy trying to set something up on the right here, and they get one. Yeah, there was just like no capitalization on getting Leafy there from Please Forfeit. They needed to at least take a bunch of paint control, and they didn't even do that much. So now they're actually behind despite winning the first engagement. They did get a couple of picks there that got them back into it. 74 is not a real push. So that on the backs of getting a bunch of picks on the defense, they're going to be able to move in and score and probably get more. And I really like how they're supporting their push right now. They're making sure that, you know, the comparison here to Jackpot is that when Jackpot went in to try and score, they didn't keep their players safe who were scoring. They weren't focused on fighting enough. It's like, there's a pick. And Leafy actually loses to Yoshell there. So well played there. So it's like, right now, in theory, it's probably pretty hard for Max and .Q to stay here. They're going to get collapsed on by the spawning players, and then the two players on the top are going to pinch them. Madness jumping in there is crazy. And then .Q at this point is just like, hey, let's put the extra clams in, why not? But they lose 3 for that, which is a big stagger. Leafy tries to go for the Zuka, but the killer whale just kind of tracks her too far back. Not doing enough in terms of movement to save herself from the whales to get the Zuka off safely. So, a mechanical mistake there. Yoshell gets this in, and then as soon as that happens, right, like, a lot of the time from the perspective of the defenders, you're not sure exactly when people are going in until the power clam moves forward. And then you're like, okay, they're pushing now. And so then that's when you kind of step up and put bombs in the way, because now the basket is open and you're trying to catch people as they're trying to score. And that's exactly when Atomic pops this Zuka and aims it at the most likely place for people to be defending from. Beautiful prediction there. I'm sure, you know, he didn't expect to get 2 of them, but I actually don't know Atomic's pronouns now that I think about it. Yeah, I'm not sure. So apologies if that was incorrect. But, oh, a triple with the Zuko too. Crazy. And they have 2 clams to stall with. The big bubbler is there. The big bubbler is going to give a clam jump. Using big bubbler for clam jumps is big brain because you... Normally with a clam jump, you lose both players, the jumper and the person they jumped to. But when you have a big bubbler there, you're a lot less likely to lose the jumper, even if you are pretty likely to lose them anyway. And even if, everything goes down, everyone goes down after the clam gets thrown in, you're only losing 1 player. Unless Tidally tries to, stay in or gets collapsed on by other things. But it's still a good general idea. Okay, push to 15. Please Forfeit is looking really good. Like, this is exactly what they needed to do. They needed something that was going to break Jackpot's momentum, and now they have a big lead that they can just play the clock for if they want to or need to. Madness starting to poke around on the right. Here comes the Inkvac, but great play from Atomic and Tidally to just slip past that Vac play, because it was stuck on the far right side. And they're just like, oh, hey, here's someone who's not in the Vac, because this Vac is way over here. It's not in a central location. And so they're just attacking the weak side here. They're able to get Leafy. They're able to get Max. It's just the Vac play that was over there. And yes, Synapse goes down. Oh, but then Tidally goes down too. That needed to not happen. Now Atomic's in a lot of trouble. They're just kind of in survival mode. They don't get out of there. So, Madness and .Q held it down. But they had the right idea. Like, they got picks, multiple picks, from getting around the Vac play and not playing into it. But then they went back to try and collapse on Madness and .Q and got outplayed. Zuka gets 1. Great pick from Leafy. And there's Yoshell going down as well. So that gives them an opening. I love how slowly Jackpot is taking this now. They got the clam in, but you saw Max hesitated and waited until they knew that there was some space in front of them to start moving forward with these clams. Like, they're making sure they don't just get pre-fired. They're making sure they don't go down. They want to keep the basket open for as long as possible. They also want to make sure that in order to do that, they're staying alive. Unfortunately, they just lost Leafy, who had all of their clams, and so now it's just push over. Madness is here to stall for time. That was a good chunk taken out of the lead, and it was only 1 minute that it took them to do that. If they do that again, then they get the lead back. So, the Please Forfeit needs to not fall apart in quite that way in neutral again. It looked like they knew that Leafy was there, the way that they were painting, the way that everyone was looking at that. So Synapse just kind of cuts off all of the options, then pre-fires Leafy, and Leafy can only either jump out or hope that Synapse doesn't know. Because, like, if you're sharking like that, sometimes you see people paint all over the place and then come around the corner figuring, okay, well, I've painted a lot and I didn't find them. Excuse me. So it's probably safe. And then the shark pops out and you're like, man, they were on the one spot I didn't check. But Synapse was ready to check that spot. We lost the junior over on the bottom side to something random. Synapse is holding everyone off on the right. Goes down to a bomb, probably. Good idea to throw bombs behind opponents in positions like that. Forces them to either really, really hard retreat or move forward into a position they don't want to be in. It was either you back up onto the bomb, and so you have to go so far past the bomb that you're basically out of play, or you run forward toward two weapons that outrange you. There was no winning. So they sneak Max in with the... Wow. Whoa. Why is everyone dead? They snuck Max in with the Tri-Strike, which is like not a bad kind of safe way to move it forward as far as carrying power clams in goes. But what gets the picks up top here? Is this another Leafy Inkjet? Or Trizuka? So one goes down up there. What is happening right now? Oh, that was the vac shot. The vac shot got one up there. Okay. And they don't get the power clam in. Oh, they do here. Wait, this might actually just be the game. This is really disastrous for Please Forfeit at this point. Like, I said they need to not fall apart in neutral quite that way again, and then they just kind of did. Vac goes in. Nothing Tidally can do to stop it, and so they have to back up. And now Tidally is completely surrounded, so they're probably going to go down. The combination of the strikes and the Inkvac shot get Atomic and Yoshell. So, like, there was like one person who was a little overcommitted, but then the others just kind of died to specials. And you leave that big of an opening. Now a team like Jackpot is going to play fast enough that they can take the lead and possibly even KO. It's like, yeah, .Q goes down, like they stop the power from going in, all the way in, but then Madness is able to scoop it up, and now all they need is 2. Like, the game could end right here. They still have Yoshell down, and this is time, yeah. So, you know, back in the Rainmaker match on Crableg, they were very evenly matched, and they weren't breaking each other's defenses very hard. And then here, Jackpot has found ways to win fights and bust their way in multiple times. It might be, in part, the VAC. The VAC is definitely making it a lot more difficult for Please Forfeit to take the fights in particular that they're looking for. Like, they're having trouble choosing when they want to go in, because, you know, the side that they want to go in on is going to be the one that's protected by it. We have not seen .Q's charger yet, but she is on the fire. There's not, yeah, the Zeko fin. So they're going for double strikes, which they're just going to use to try and cheese the zone. This zone is pretty susceptible to being cheesed by like AoE specials. You see it a lot with Reef Slider, and really the safer way to do it is probably to be doing it with strikes like they're doing here. You just put them in key places, and it's very difficult for the enemy team to outpaint it. You usually need 1.5 players worth of paint to outdo just the specials by themselves. And sometimes you don't have those players to devote to it. Or sometimes just the fact that the special is out there and then the player is painting on top of it means that you still lose the 4v4 paint race for it. And being able to get penalty and lock the zone without allowing major pushes to develop is huge, even if you're not winning the fights. One thing that could also be a factor between these two comps is that for the last little while, Jackpot has been running... actually, I want to go back and see. For the last little while, Jackpot has been running Tri-Nouveau instead of the Snipe Rider. And I'm curious to see if the special output has been noticeably different between the Rider... Oh, I should start lower down here. Between the Rider and the Bucket. So that last game, the Bucket actually got more coolers out. This game, one more cooler on the part of the Rider, not a huge deal. 5-5, so dead even. So that's pretty impressive by itself. Like, it's not what I would expect for the Tri-Nouveau to be able to match it in output like that. So that's maybe Yoshell is focusing more on picks and supporting the team, and is therefore getting fewer of those coolers out. But that should be, in theory, an advantage that Please Forfeit have that they could play to if they wanted. That sometimes they might be able to just catch Jackpot out without a cooler because they got theirs first. Or because the weapon that farms the coolers had to get involved in a fight that the Snipe Rider didn't have to, and went down and lost its special. Alright, Leafy spots the Junior out over there and just uses the range advantage to pick it. This team comp in particular, I'm not a huge fan of for Mako zones for Please Forfeit, because they're all line of sight weapons. They have no AoE except for bombs. And that means that, and by bombs I mean the Junior. So that's probably why they put the Junior up here, because that is the best fight. But against a bucket, even against just another short range shooter that has longer range, you don't hold left stack with just a Junior. It's really hard, I think, for them to hold left stack because they don't have something that hits over ledges or something with like super long range to watch that, or because look at where Synapse and Atomic are right now. They can't hit Leafy because of Leafy's positioning on the stack. Like there's nothing they're going to do about that. In fact, Leafy goes in after them, seeing an advantage and a chance to push it. So given how important it is to control left stack over there, I feel like they probably wanted to switch someone onto something with AoE, or at least maybe run another short-range shooter so that they can play the sharking game around it better. So Atomic able to sneak one out on Max, and then is pinning .Q into mid, where they might be able to push. .Q is forced to drop out. They get the pick on Leafy. So far so good. But even there, 4v1 situation, Madness still gets out. They can't actually collapse Madness, and Madness is just back in play immediately because they jumped to their teammate. Yeah, I'm worried about their weakness on that side. Okay, so strikes go out, and they just kind of rotate around the zone. 1-for-1 trade happens. Actually, no, I think that was 2-for-1. They really need to cap the zone here. This is a problem that Jackpot ran into on the Omami Zones game, where they had advantage, and they didn't cap zone while they had advantage. And that gave Please Forfeit a chance to get back in. Because now they've lost a player on the zone, and it might allow Please Forfeit to just take the zone back without it being capped. Especially now that Max is also down. I think that is certainly what happens at this point. So yeah, that's a big issue for Jackpot. That's something they need to stop letting other teams do to them. So the strikes come out to little effect, it seems. Atomic is down on the bottom side, looking like to Q. And now they're just going to completely clean up. Going for zone here. They finally get it. Took them a second, but they got it. So now Jackpot needs to hold. I feel like this special is really early from Synapse. Like, you can see that it's having an impact, but it's not having an impact on where there's a fight, first of all. If you're going to aim this, you probably want to aim it at Max, so that Atomic can take them out, because that's the only player on the enemy team that your teammates are shooting at the moment. But secondly, like, look at how much paint Leafy and Madness have to work with. Like, they should never go down to this special, and there's no follow-up. So I feel like that was just kind of a waste. Max does ultimately end up going down. Maybe the whole point was just to keep Madness and Leafy busy enough that they couldn't save Max, because they just felt confident that they were going to be able to win that fight with the main weapons. Maybe that's the thought. So the strikes come in, and the Junior accidentally backs into them. So that's a huge loss for Please Forfeit. Zuka gets nothing from Atomic, and again, I feel like that's not the time to use a special. Like, we're staggered at the moment. We've got a single player who's able to reach the zone at all with their shots, and that's the Snipe Rider. So the enemy team has full paint control behind the zone, and you're trying to just get like the random Zuka pick without any pressure, without any of their escape routes being cut off. Like, that's the worst case scenario. So unless you know that someone's not looking at you and you know you're going to hit that first shot, you probably wait on that for your teammates to be in and be able to capitalize. Even if you do get a pick, what's the guarantee that your team is actually going to be able to sweep in and get the zone right away because of that pick? Like, maybe the enemy team just respawns in time if you get the pick at that timing. So the specials have not felt coordinated so far. Madness gets a pick. Synapse gets a pick, dead even. They're going to try and move their way in here and flush out the block here. It looked like there was a little bit of indecision about whether to go for the zone or to clear out Madness and Leafy first. They end up going for the zone. Leafy gets 2 for 1, and they end up not getting the zone because of it. That decision might be important. They need to get the zone back. Okay, Madness goes down. Yoshell is able to get the paint across the zone. Crisis averted. I really would like for there to be more forward paint happening from Please Forfeit right now. Like, they have a numbers advantage. They have a junior who's really far forward. But aside from the zone, Jackpot still have paint control past mid, really. Like, Tidally has not done anything to address left pit. They have not done anything to address the enemy freezer. They have not done anything to address the enemy stacks with their paint. Yoshell's not painting over any of that. They're taking fights. Synapse is too far back to help with it. Like, they're not locking in the space that they're securing right now. And so because of that, for example, like, Synapse just... What happened to Synapse there? Because that might not have been that they didn't have the paint to work with. They're kind of alone over there. Even if they don't have the paint to work with, I feel like they should be able to get out of that. What happens here? Oh, so they just don't see it. They hear that there's a fight happening in mid, and they run toward it and run into that. So, unforced error. They do have cooler, not the end of the world, but they lost a lot of momentum. Combination of Madness and Leafy, you know, with the Zuka, are able to take out Atomic on the top side in the meantime while everyone else is recovering. So, Atomic kind of gets caught out there. Like, they, with Synapse down, they don't want to be getting too close. Let's see how that developed. So Atomic is zuking at the moment. And then they see the right side. Oh, and they're just trying to contest from an angle that their weapon doesn't do that well. This is one of the reasons you want, like, some kind of AoE, some kind of ability to attack over a ledge. If Atomic also has a bucket, they can hit Madness. But because they have a straight line of sight weapon, they have more range, but Madness is already under a ledge, and so now where do they go? All they can do is back up. And they keep trying to fight it to make sure Madness can't get around and, like, attack Yoshell or something, but just getting in a lot too deep there. Trying to play it like a splatter shot a little bit. Tidally goes down here almost for sure. Okay, they get out. Good jump. Oh, that's a big pick from Max, just right under the ledge, catching Yoshell. Because Yoshell is a big deal. If Yoshell goes down, that means slower cooler. Max is perfectly happy to take that trade. So now they're at a numbers advantage. Leafy's just waiting for someone to drop. Then goes in when someone does, gets Atomic. This is looking kind of Jover right now. There's... Oh, they... How did they sneak that? What? How did the zone go over? I feel like This shouldn't happen? Oops. So Tidally goes in. It's literally just the junior. The bubble goes up. They strike in. Is there anything other than the junior that is painting the zone there? This is 1v3. This should not happen. This is so close to KO, too. And it's still, like, completely yellow. What happened? Oh, wait, no, there's Snipe Raider shots. Okay, so right at that moment, Yoshell starts painting the zone. And since everyone's shooting at the junior instead, it gets capped from under their noses. Okay. I didn't even see the Snipe Raider paint going down. I just assumed that was coming from the junior for a minute. But yeah, that's the sort of thing where, like, Jackpot really needs to not let that happen. Like, they're letting control of the zone shift over to the other team more often than I think they really need to, based on the numbers that they've got and the position that they have. That's something where, like, you have two people, you know, get the junior, but you have someone making sure that the zone is covered at the same time. Okay, so trade happens in the bottom right. Not super important. That pick, though, on Leafy is very important. That gives Please Forfeit all the time they need to move up, take zone. They're definitely going to take it. No shot they don't here. Tidally gets a little bit too deep against Max. Well played mechanically from Max. They should get traded back here by Atomic, probably. No, didn't have the angle. Oh, there goes Max. Okay, good picks. So Please Forfeit in control here. This could still swing the other way. That's a trade between Synapse and .Q. So that means that they're only going to have one set of strikes they're going to have to paint through, whereas all Please Forfeit have lost is a whale. They have lost a little bit of fighting power, though. Tidally needs to be in a position where they can outpaint this here. This is probably the shooter's job more than anybody else's. Like, yes, the Snipe Raider can paint a lot of this, but the junior is going to cover the area inside the strikes so quickly that it's like they never even landed. Whereas the Snipe Raider's paint is like in straight lines. It goes in strips. So they're contesting the paint. And when they get the cap back, this is actually a really big deal right now that they got the cap, because this puts Jackpot on a timer. But Jackpot also had a breakthrough on the left-hand side where they get Synapse. They really need to collapse right now and pick Leafy before anything happens, before Jackpot's able to claim the zone. They have probably like 2 seconds to do this. And if they don't, then they probably lose zone, and they're in a really bad position to push back onto it. They get Leafy. Oh, this is insanely close. Here come the strikes. Can they paint through these? No, Tidally goes down to them and dies on the zone. That is disaster. And now it's probably game over. They get one more chance to push back in with specials. But this is going to be hard. Especially if the fight here yields anything more. Yeah, Max getting around on the side there with the Tri-Slosher. That's another thing that you really like about the Slosher, is its ability to push those stacks. And Yoshell, not respecting it there, goes down. Max is behind them now. This is really obnoxious. They do finally get them, but Leafy gets another one on the left-hand side. It's just, they're trades back and forth, and they need to get like more solid control than this to set up a, this is 46 tick hold that they need. Or not 46, they need 47 because they need to beat it. Just a little disorganized on the fights, and understandably so, because at this point you don't have time to really get your specials and push back in. So, yeah, Atomic and Tidally both go down on the right there. Synapse gets one, but like, How are they meant to actually take zone here? What do they do? Just too many numbers for them to have to move through. Very close, honestly. Like, impressed by Please Forfeit's ability to stay so even against Jackpot. Given that they're a pickup, given that they're running a pretty unconventional team comp, which I think did have some weaknesses that held them back in places. Ultimately, it just came down to, like, Jackpot winning the fight at the right time a little bit more often, or having a stronger game plan for offense, having a little bit more force behind the push as they came in. Like they're being just a little more disciplined about how they push in. But yeah, generally, pretty impressive showing from those guys.